Welcome in, Guerilla Hockey, JJ Jerez, Jesse Montano. Thanks for hanging out with us. Pre-game edition.
Woo.
Avalanche take on Carolina Hurricanes tonight. That'll be a fun one. Both Jesse and I will be there, give you all the updates. We're even doing this before morning skate, Jesse.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Still got some morning skate updates to get out there. But
They're going to say still got some jet lag. I was like,
No.
Really?
I've been home for a week. But that's what I was actually going to go with. Is the last time I saw you, Jesse, you and I were standing outside the LA Kings practice rink,
yeah.
parting ways. You were on your way to San Jose. I was on my way to Boulder, actually.
I would like to point out, we didn't not share an Uber because we don't like each other. LAX has different terminals for depending on the airline. So we were technically going to different buildings. We realized that at the last second. So yeah, it was. I just wanted to make sure that people were like, ooh, wow, they were at the end of the trip. They didn't want to share an Uber.
They were
together.
sick of each other. No, we had a blast on the trip. We had a lot of productive conversations, a lot of brainstorming. So excited for what we're going to unfold here in the near future. But we want to talk Avalanche here. Nobody wants to hear about our plans, Jesse.
I was going to say I was going to keep talking about our plans. I was just going to say, no, I want to just keep reiterating anytime we do one of these, the support has been awesome. We had the Jack Johnson piece go out earlier this week, and it's all been great. And a lot of the conversations that JJ, you and I had, Blake and I had when he joined me in San Jose, is all about how we are ramping this up and how we're going to continue to make it better, more consistent, and all that stuff. And we're still in such early stage of this. It's so fun because I think we're all really proud of what we're doing, and it's literally only going up, and so it's just really fun, really exciting.
Yeah, and more on the Jack Johnson piece a little bit later here in this episode. But for now, the Avalanche are 4-0, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at 4-0 if you want to get into hockey speak here. But it draws me back to the conversation you and I had last time we were on these couches about the extended preseason that is kind of the beginning of the regular season, right? And I really feel that. You still see the Avalanche kind of playing sloppy here and there. You still see them having a hard time scoring goals against a team like San Jose. And so they're right before our eyes, we're kind of seeing that unfold. They're still kind of working out some kinks. But I think the schedule that they've had, I mean, if you really look at it, I think of the teams they've played so far, only the Kings are a true playoff contender, in my opinion. So they've kind of had that nice runway to be able to use this little extended preseason, but it's great to still be working out kinks and be 4-0 while you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, I think, and a lot of the guys that we've talked to, in the last week, I think that is the most encouraging part is there's been stretches of, maybe not the Chicago game. I think they were pretty dominant. Maybe the first handful of minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, Chicago had a nice little press, but other than that, it was all Avs.
What did you say, though? Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
that
good.
First period of that Blackhawks game, I mean, you saw the same struggles that you've been seeing for a while. Some bobbled passes.
Sloppy.
Very sloppy hockey you're still seeing.
And so I think maybe the Hawks game was the best game, but I also think that was the worst team that they played. I don't know. San Jose is not very good either. Point being is that there's been things in each of these games that's that's got to be a little bit better. Yeah, that's got to be a little bit cleaned up. Gosh, you don't love the way. But they've what's so encouraging to me if I'm the Avs and I'm watching them is they're battling through this stuff. That's a veteran group. And it's so funny, JJ, just how it switched before our eyes and we didn't even really realize it because for years this was young team still learning, trying to figure this stuff out, and these types of early games, like that San Jose game is a game that pre-Stanley Cup, this team would not have won. They wouldn't have been able to battle through, but I just feel like you're seeing so much more of that experience, and the fact that there is so many new faces, they are still learning each other and how all of it works, and guys are still learning systems and all of that, and they've come away with this with 4 wins. To me, that's the encouraging part is it's not there yet, and they're still finding a way to win these games. It's super early. I don't want to make it sound like this is they're grinding it out to win these games, but I do think it's a sign of a veteran team that you can fight through some of this sloppiness and ugliness early on and continue to find ways to come up with results.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, and I mean the resilience is something we've seen them kind of grow over the last 2 years or so, is just having that confidence in themselves, because the San Jose was the epitome of that, right? They're getting goalied.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a more of an issue of what the offense is doing or just hats off to Blackwood for that night. But
he was great.
Down to the last minute, pull the goalie. I mean, we've seen this from this team in the past. K.O. Makar putting the puck home. So
you're a goalie, or you used to be a goalie.
Got a bad hip now, Jesse.
Yeah, I know. I felt bad for Mackenzie Blackwood just a little bit because he was outstanding in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little bit of what you were kind of alluding to there. The Avs weren't perfect in that game. Their shot selection wasn't always great, maybe a little bit too cute. But like he made several big saves that give credit to Mackenzie Blackwood, and you feel a little bit bad for him that on that night, the one that finally beats him with less than 90 seconds left, Cale Makar never saw it, never even gets a chance to react to it.
Could be his best game of the season, and it counts as a loss.
Right. And like I said, just the one that ended up beating him. It's a night good on Cale Makar is really good at getting pucks through traffic, but I just felt bad. You're watching Blackwood, and he's just like, no idea where it is, and it was by him before he.
Well, and that's where I look at Peter Mrazek too, because Mrazek oftentimes comes into Colorado and has good games. I mean, I remember what he's done against when he was with Carolina. So that always
Detroit.
And he had a good game the other night too, right? You're like, are we going to get the Peter Mrazek that we're used to seeing here? But despite that, Peter Mrazek still showing up. The Avalanche, it should have been 8-0, right?
Dude,
Mrazek definitely held them in there. Same with Mackenzie Blackwood. It should have been a 6-1 game. Ended up 2-1. So
I said 7-0 when I texted you the morning of the Hawks game.
Right.
I felt the play on ice reflected my prediction. The score did not, because Mrazek was good. And then I do just. Were you moving on from the Hawks?
No,
game?
I was just gonna go more of a negative, I guess, approach to things, because I still kind of feel like the goal scoring. I know, again, credit to the goalies that they just faced, but in 4 games, seeing 2 goalies perform extremely well, I'm questioning the goal scoring ability of this team again. Kind of like I was at points last year. Kind of like I was at points in the year before.
What a silly thing to do.
What? Why? Tell me why I'm silly.
Because I mean, like this. So through the first 3 games, you saw a lot of really solid production out of the top half of your lineup, right? The McKinnons, Rantanens, Makars,
which we're used to,
strange. which is great. And you and I talked about that. Like, it's all good, but I want to see those other groups get going.
Mm-hmm.
This last game against the Hawks, it's Ryan Johansson. Arturi Lehkonen gets on the board the game in Seattle. Tomas Tatar gets his first point. Jonathan Drouin had a really nice play that didn't count. Who's the other one? Who am I missing here? Because McKinnon had one. And Taves, Val Nichushkin and Devon Taves. Like you really started to spread it around a bit. And like, I don't know if you saw the comments from the Blackhawks head coach after the game, but I mean, like he said, look, we played Toronto, we played a very seasoned Pittsburgh team. And he said, not like this team. This team's just a different beast, and I think you've got guys who are getting up to play against the Avs, especially on teams like San Jose, like Chicago, where those goalies know they have to play out of their minds to even keep their team in it. There's something to prove there. I just think that the Avs are in that phase where you're going to get everyone's best game every single night. And that, to me, seemed like what beat them down a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, I think you've got 2 goaltenders who are coming in who are trying to prove it with some new clubs. And, hey, I'm gonna steal one off the Avs. And I actually think it's the fact that their offense, I think, has been so overwhelming in those games that's what's led to them eventually being able to break through. Goaltenders having really good nights.
Right, but it almost feels like it's a numbers game for Colorado. Like, yeah, they're breaking through. They know how to do it, but it's to the point of where when the shot is ready to be released, it's not a good opportunity. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just trying to throw out hypotheticals because I can't really put my finger on it. But look at Ryan Johansson. We've been waiting for him to score a goal. The goal he finally gets, batted out of midair.
I've got to give a shout out to Peter Baugh real fast because every game on the road, he was like, I think this power play, Ryan Johansson finally breaks through. And like it became a joke by the end of the trip. So when he scored in the power play of the night, he and I looked at each other in the box. He's like, I told you. He does that every year.
Yes, last year was Sheldon Dries. He always expected to do things.
Dryden Hunt was his one last year. Where every time Dryden Hunt jumped on the ice, our boy Peter was like, his first goal right here.
It never happened. But no, anyway, Ryan Johansson's goal really had to muck it up around the net, knock it out of midair, right? We're not seeing just a Ryan Johansson-esque. We're not seeing that bumper spot pop off.
But isn't that what you wanted out of Johansson, though? Where, like, you want him to take that Landy role where he's getting to the front of the net?
I just still have a bad taste in my mouth from those games last year where you're like, okay, Rantanen, McKinnon, Lehkonen, they didn't score tonight, so it's up to the Confers of the world, and they'd end up, losing 3-1.
And I get why that could leave a bitter taste in your mouth, but it's a very different group here. And because, again, you and I had talked about it, and I think I'd even had the conversation with Peter about, gosh, you want to see this depth get going. Here's my thing with depth. It's really easy to point to it and say, oh, it's not producing, it's not whatever, because it's your depth for a reason, right? They're not your top players for a reason. My thing is exactly what you just said. If these guys can pick up the slack on nights where you need them to, that's all that matters. They needed them to pick up the slack 2 nights ago. Nathan McKinnon scores the goal late on a really nice feed from Tomas Tatar, but like the Avs top guys weren't filling the net early, and the depth picked up for it. So like to me, that is how you need to judge it. You can't judge your depth on how consistently are they scoring. Yeah, you'd love to get an 80-point season out of your 2C like the Avs got with Kadri. And I'm not saying that Ryan Johansson can't, we're 4 games in, he's got a goal. I'm not saying he's not going to have a very good season, but like that's not the norm. That's part of the reason why that was, such an anomaly with Kadri. So, like, as long as the depth is picking up the slack on nights where you need them to, you're fine. And that's what I honestly think that's what's played out so far through these first 4 games.
So I guess with that, how do you read into the line combination switches? Obviously, Jonathan Drouin, he's already played lines 1 through 3. And if you remember, it's probably about a month and a half ago, was kind of my fear with Jonathan Drouin. He's going to be sliding up and down the lineup. I said he gave me serious Andre Burakovsky vibes because he's streaky, and we're going to find him some days on the top line, some days in the third line. Do you read that as Jonathan Drouin's in the doghouse right now, or do you feel Jared Bednar still just trying to experiment with what works best?
For right now, I'm going to go with the latter because I really do think that it was he swapped Drouin and Tatar, and he told us after the game he was trying to jumpstart both of those guys. Hey, because honestly, you and I had talked about it. Yep. Tomas Tatar, I thought was the one new guy that I hadn't had a moment yet on that road trip where I was like, I really hadn't even noticed him much. And again, he talked about it after the win the other night that he missed a lot of the captain skates. He really got into town like just days before camp officially opened. So he, is still getting up to speed on things.
Well, and I feel like we're seeing that, right?
I agree.
In the locker room, I brought up that conversation between Bo and Byram, Jonathan Drouin, and Thomas Tatar working on the power play structure. I remember after morning skate in LA, Thomas Tatar just kind of sat there staring at the ground with his top off, right? And he's just still got his bottoms and his skate on, and he's like visualizing what he's supposed to be doing. He's even sitting there going like this, just staring off into space. Like, I still think he's really trying to grasp the structure.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a 20-goal scorer. Like, that's 7-time 20-goal scorer. He's pretty automatic, when it 15 to 20 goals. He's a good offensive mind. Again, he's had the struggles in the playoffs, but, like, he's got the offensive upside. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I think he is still figuring it out. So I really do think that was a move where it's like, hey, it's maybe just not working for Drouin right now on that top line. It's maybe not working for Tomas Tatar right now on that third line. Let's flip them and see what we get. And again, I Drouin, that's offside by this much. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, that's a beautiful play. Cut back to the middle and finding Wood, driving to the led Miles Wood on with that pass to for a tap in on the back door. Like that was all a really nice play. So really, I thought both guys got the boost out of it they needed. So that's why I'm sticking with not the doghouse yet, trying to jumpstart them. But, you have to keep an eye on it. You're crazy if, you're not paying attention to the fact that it's first line to third line. I don't necessarily, not looking at it as like a hard demotion, but you're not on the top line anymore.
Jonathan Drouin is such a playmaker, right? And we've heard from everybody that he's played with so far how much they enjoy playing with him, right? Ryan Johansson had nothing but amazing things to say about his hockey IQ and the way he plays the game, but it's that finishing ability that we're just waiting for, right? I don't think you can I don't want to say he's had the opportunities in front of him and just hasn't finished them.
Are you talking about in Colorado?
In Colorado.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been there on the doorstep, ready to knock home some goals, and he gets swatted every time. So the playmaking gets you so far. It's about, I guess, just how you correlate with your line mates.
That's why I really would, as he gets more comfortable and Tatar gets more, I want to see him get another crack with that top line, because even if you go back to his junior, like, finishing has just never been like what Jonathan Drouin is elite at. It's always been the vision. It's always been the playmaking. He's always been a much higher total in the assist column guy than the goal column.
Which you would think, playing with a guy like Rantanen and McKinnon, that's a perfect fit.
Right. And so that's why I want to see him get another crack. I don't at all disagree with the move. And again, it yielded results for Jared Bednar the other night. I want to see him get another chance there, because, I mean, like, dude, him and McKinnon work. They work after practice together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that there is that chemistry there. And I do think that exactly what you said, like, those are two of the best players to have Jonathan Drouin paired with if he is purely going to be a distributor.
Mm-hmm. I guess, how do you feel about Jonathan Drouin's mental side of the game after being quote unquote demoted, or, maybe there's some shots at his confidence there?
I'm going to,
we know it's a fragile thing for him.
I'm not going to put that on him yet. I haven't talked to him since the other night. He's really seemed like he's been in a really good headspace here in Colorado, just in the couple months now that we've gotten to know him a little bit. So I'm not going to make any assumptions on it yet. I want to talk to him. I want to see how he responds. He was out working at optional skate yesterday. Him and Nathan McKinnon, we're working on mechanics, fine tuning things. I really do think that he is trying to turn a new page here in Colorado and really kind of reset his career. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt to do that. And I want to see how he responds tonight. This is a good Carolina team that's coming in tonight. And, this is
we'll get into that.
Well, but I think this is the best team that they've played.
Sure. Yep. 100%.
Now I like LA a lot. I think LA is a good team, but I think this is the best team that they've played. And so I want to see what Drouin does. If he comes out and has a really good game tonight, then no, he's responding great. He's responding the exact way you want him to.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to the 2022 playoffs. Dude, it seemed like every player that Jared Bednar scratched, when they drew back in, they picked up a point. They contributed in some way. That's the kind of mentality you want out of players.
Yeah, part of being a professional, right, and really handling, okay, this isn't a shot at me as a person. This is just me needing to get better at my job, right? I look at Justus Annunen.
I thought you were going to say I look at you. I was like, the fuck did I do?
You always try to assume what I'm saying before I'm
I
done
know.
saying it. Let me finish what I'm saying, Jesse.
I don't want to.
Look at Justus Annunen. Probably a shot to the ego, right? Essentially getting demoted. But, of course, they just wanted him to have more playing time. So that's also where the coaching staff comes in and makes sure they lay that proper expectation. Like, look, this isn't an insult to you. This is just the way we got to run it.
Mm-hmm.
Show us that a change needs to be made.
Yeah.
Prove to us that you're the guy that we need to place when we need.
And it's honestly the other way that players, I think a lot of them do look at it this way, is we're trying to put you in a better position to succeed. Hey, you standing, we want you to go play games. You sitting here practicing and taking warm-ups isn't going to help you. Go get better, and then you can come back and have an impact. Hey, Jonathan Drouin, it's you're still learning this system. You're still getting comfortable. Playing with two of the best, two top 10 players in the world maybe isn't what's best for you right now. Go get a little bit more comfortable with this system. We can try it again.
Yeah.
And he was productive. Again, it didn't count. But it was a really nice play, and you want to see him build on that.
So we're looking for a little more out of Jonathan Drouin. We're hoping to get Thomas Tatar sparked here.
Yep.
Ryan Johansson still has a little left to give. That leaves us with Miles Wood and Ross Colton. I think Miles Wood has been the most impactful new guy. The guy that's come in, played his role the way we expected it to, and he's making some noise out there.
I feel like he's been my most noticeable. I feel like every game I'm noticing Miles.
It's hard not to notice that style, right? He's going 100 miles per hour into the corners and laying a body on somebody. It's hard not to notice that. It's like, oh, he's going to kill someone.
Well, and dude, he just, I know we talked about it a lot, preseason when the Avs acquired him and through training, like, dude, he flies. Like, seeing him out there in game situations. Because, again, everyone is skating really hard in training camp. A lot of those drills are, meant to be straight line speed type things. Like, seeing him out there at game speed and chasing down pucks. And, I mean, I think between him and McKinnon, they've already beat out 4 or 5 icings through these first few games. He's got the wheels, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like he also chases bodies more than pucks. He's like, I'm just going 100 miles per hour right at you. I don't even know what the puck's gonna do. I'm just gonna come and get you.
He reminds me of I love referencing Nico Sturm when the Avs first swapped him for Tyson Jost, and everyone was kind of like, these are really kind of the same dude. Nico Sturm had a little bit of that, like what you're talking about with Miles Wood, where and what he told us was, I think they brought me in because I'm hard to play against. I'm not hard to play against in the sense that I'm going to put you into the third row, but I'm always going to finish my check, and I'm always right in your hip pocket. And I get that same kind of vibe from Miles Wood, where it's like he's just a nightmare to play against.
I feel like he wants to put you in the third row. He's looking to put you in the third row.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you, but
in a smart way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was going to say, he's not like
just put my head down and hit bodies.
Right,
he's going to do it strategically.
Zach Cassian used to just run around jumping into hits all over the place. He's not necessarily like that, but you're right. Like the footsteps that are coming from him on the forecheck feels like this dude's going to put me through the wall.
Yeah. And didn't he truck a goalie in the last couple games too?
I don't think that was him.
I feel like
maybe it was, but Peter Mrazek sold the hell out of that dude.
All right, moving on. Last thing I wanted to get to before we take a quick little break for our Jack Johnson piece, which was very well done, Jesse. Good job on that. But the Patrick Kane rumors. Of course, a lot of people trying to figure out where's Patrick Kane going to go. I think there are a lot better fits for him than the Colorado Avalanche, but the national media doesn't realize that. They just say, oh, the Avalanche are good. He probably wants to go to the Avalanche, or he probably wants to go to Vegas. Do you see a fit there? Let's.
Well, so I'm saying this without looking at cap friendly, and maybe I should pull it up to have a better, more well-educated opinion on this. But so here's what I'll say. I'm going back a year to last year's trade deadline, or I guess maybe that's not one full year. Going back to last season, last year's trade deadline, I know I was told the Avs were very interested in Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. That they had conversations on both, and I had been told by someone that I trust that the Avs had kicked some serious tires on Patrick Kane. It was one of those, when they were starting to figure out Gabe Landeskog's not coming back, they were starting to get some internal clarity on some of that. I was told they had conversations of, okay, well, do we go try to get another, elite top-tier player? Patrick Kane's available. And so point being, I know they've had interest in this player in the past, and I really do even believe that it extends beyond last trade deadline, maybe even to last summer. I know going into this summer, he was a guy that, they had talked about, does he make sense? We got to see what his health is. We got to see what this, that, and the other. Is he entering that part of his career where we could get him to come here, short-term deal, while we figure out what's going on with Gabe, et cetera, et cetera. So hearing some of these rumors start to fly the other day, I wouldn't be shocked if they were true, because I've been told that they have had interest in him in the past. I just don't know how feasible it is at this point.
As a cap? From a cap standpoint, I just don't even know where he fits in at this point. I feel like the Avalanche approached the offseason without him in mind and said, okay, that didn't work out. The Toews Kane idea, it's not coming to fruition. Let's move on. And they've filled these holes. They've brought in a handful of guys.
Yeah.
There's simply no room from him from an X's and O's standpoint, let alone cap.
So, what you could do, if you're purely talking about making room, is you put him on the wing with McKinnon and Rantanen, and then you slide Jonathan Drouin down to wherever you feel makes the most sense.
We just know Mikko likes that right side.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that would be part of it. Is maybe Patrick Kane willing to play on his offside, or I don't know. Do you try to put him with that side? Point being, I think you could find room for him, and I think
I don't know, because then what? You have to move Val, and Val likes that right side.
Again, I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too worried about right
I think you have to
versus
move
left.
way too many pieces around just to make a Patrick Kane fit
I think you're overthinking it.
I just think you have everybody you need in place. You have.
I agree with you.
I
agree. So that's where I was going before I was so rudely interrupted. That's where I was going. Is I think you could find if you wanted to make the room for him, you could make the room for him. I tend to agree with you though. I just look. So Cap Friendly is saying that with LTIR and all that stuff, the Avs. This is saying $2 million that they could use right now. If Patrick Kane wanted to come here for 1 year, $2 million, awesome. Mm-hmm. Awesome. But listen to what I just said. Patrick Kane wants to come for 1 year, $2 million. And I don't know. Maybe he would. Matt Duchene did it for 3. Patrick Kane is coming off an injury, and it would kind of even be a prorated thing. So I don't know. If he really, really, really liked the Avs, and they got him for $2 million, that's my thing. Is if you got him for what you could afford, yeah, you find the room. You slide Drouin down. You have either him or Mikko play on their offside, and you try some combinations so you find something that works. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't really think that makes. I just when I say that out loud, that just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. You're just changing yourself too much to adapt to a good player.
Well, I'm even talking about from Patrick Kane's perspective. There's going to be teams out there that are willing to give him more than $2 million.
Sure, but if you're Patrick Kane, don't you want to go to a contender? Would you rather go to Colorado, Vegas over Detroit?
If you're taking a 1 year deal though, just for the rest of this year, I think you probably take the highest bidder, knowing that if it's a non-contender, they'll flip you at the deadline. And you even work that. I'm sure maybe not in your actual contract, but that's part of your negotiations. Is
please flip me at the deadline.
Hey, I'm willing to come here to see. Hey Buffalo, I'm willing to come here to see if we can get over the finish line. But if it's pretty clear that we're not, I am asking that you flip me somewhere. And then at that point, the cap hits way less. I don't know. I'm never gonna. If I'm the Avs, I'm not gonna turn my nose up at potentially adding Patrick Kane to this group. Especially because you're still not 100% sure with Ryan Johansson. So I don't know, maybe you bring him in and you do slide Mikko Rantanen down and you run a line of Val, Mikko, and Ryan Johansson, and then you do, Lehkonen, Kane, McKinnon. I don't know. Again, if that falls into your lap, do it. I just have a hard time believing that that's actually going to happen. Kevin Weeks is the one who put it out. Kevin Weeks is much more dialed in and tuned into stuff than we are. And again, like I said, my folks that I've talked to, I know the Avs like Patrick Kane. I just don't know. I have a really hard time seeing that come to fruition. If it does, that's unbelievable work by Chris McFarland.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I don't know why you had to make it feel like an argument. We're agreeing.
I was going to kick your foot.
We're agreeing.
Are we though? Because you're saying don't do it either way. Because you're saying there's no room.
I think if
he falls into your lap.
If you back into it and it's really easy and he says no, I want to go to Colorado, then you do it. But if it's just having to move all the pieces just to make it work, and not to mention the injury aspect of it, right? You don't know how healthy he's going to be throughout the rest of the year, and this team already struggles so much with health. Why add another wild card in there that you don't know?
And honestly, that's kind of my thing with him is because it's a question mark. It's it doesn't work. You LTIR him and you get that money back and you make a move at the deadline. Who gives a fuck?
You just have a bunch of LTIR by the end of the year.
Yeah. You're the new Vegas.
Cool. Well, I think we just had to touch on it because I don't think it's something that's so pressing that it's start the podcast with that conversation, but it's definitely conversations that are being had around the league. We have to have it as well. So let's get into the Jack Johnson piece.
Yeah.
What do you want to say before we get into it? I know, this was a planned piece. Took us a couple days to really, pick up steam on it, generate the ideas, and execute it. So what stood out to you about that conversation?
Dude, so, you and I were kind of sitting there talking about, just some fun feature pieces that we wanted to start doing because that is a lot of what, we want to do here at Guerilla is, tell some of those stories that, we think are interesting. We think folks would find interesting. And, we get to spend a lot of time with some pretty amazing athletes and stuff like that. So, we just kind of started talking and you and I were actually in LA and we were talking about the Vegas home opener and the banner raising. And, They did it totally, Vegas style and all that stuff with the big slot machine and everything. And we just kind of started reminiscing a bit about what a cool experience it was when the Avs did it and being able to see that in person. And then the added layer to it of the whole Jack Johnson saga. Playing for the Chicago Blackhawks and just so happens to be visiting at be the visiting team at Ball Arena on that night. And so we were like, man, that would just be awesome to hear about it from his perspective, because we all talk about it. We all kind of make our assumptions of what happened down there, and we saw him come onto the ice and this, that, and the other. But what was it? What happened? And so that was just kind of the conversation that you and I had, and it kind of springboarded into everything. And big thanks to the Avs and their PR team for making him available to us. And it was a great story that he kind of told, and we were able to talk to him about his career a little bit and potentially his future with the Avs. Spoke to some folks, other folks on the team, and it was just a ton of fun, and I hope people are enjoying it because I learned something talking to him about it.
When one of the folks you talked to on the team, Nathan McKinnon, I think that stood out to me when he goes, we kind of knew the whole time we were going to eventually get him back. And it's funny because we assumed that, we talked about that, we thought, oh, this is a good idea, why not? And meanwhile, behind the scenes,
they were doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
no, I'm with you. That definitely jumped out to me. Like every now and then when we're talking to players, someone will say something that you're like, I'll remember that. A certain comment will stick with you, and it doesn't matter what they say the rest of the time or what they said before. It's like the one comment that sticks, and I'm totally with you. When he said that, I was like, because he goes, I figured we'd get him back, and he even talked about the deal that he was on and all that stuff. I was like, this almost sounds like internally when they saw him sign that deal, they were like, yep, we'll see you at the deadline.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see you at the deadline.
Exactly. We wanted to get something done with you. We couldn't get it done in time. I'm sorry. We'll get you back here. So, interesting stuff. So, enjoy this snippet of the Jack Johnson interview. Of course, catch the full thing on our YouTube page.
Yep, we'll put a link in the description here. Yep.
Worth every second, so definitely watch it. And, we'll be back to wrap up the podcast. Got a couple more conversations with you, and we'll be out to morning skate.
Sweet.
Jack, thank you very much for taking time out. I know you guys are always busy on travel days here in San Jose. We were a little worried at first when we walked in here at the white walls, but it's a locker room, so it's all good. I guess let's just start with, having won it and then going through last year that ends with the disappointment, the longer summer, just kind of, I guess, coming out of the gates. How are you feeling mentally, maybe compared to how it was last year?
Obviously you get a lot longer summer, to kind of rest, recuperate, longer time to train, get yourself ready again for another long season. But, once you've won, you want to just keep winning. And so when we didn't do it last year, I think it was lit a pretty good fire in everyone again to get back to where we feel like we belong.
Yeah. I was, season getting going, I was watching the Vegas Golden Knights banner raising from a couple nights ago, and it got me thinking about you and kind of the moment that you were able to have last year, despite not being on the team at the time. So if it's all right, I want to just talk a little bit about that. And I guess for starters, did you say anything to your teammates on the Blackhawks before you went out there, or what was that kind of conversation like?
I don't remember saying anything to them because when I show up for the game, for pregame skate, I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't know what I was going to be a part of, what I wouldn't be. And, I also knew I was playing for another team. So it was, but I can't thank enough the Avs organization and the Blackhawks for allowing me to be a part of that. It was pretty special, and the uniqueness of it. Not only being on a team that wins, but then you go to another team, and that happens to be the team that you open up with. And so there's a lot of just random luck things involved with allowing me to be a part of that, on top of both organizations being so great to me to let me go out there and be a part of it.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of things fell into place. What were kind of you saying to guys, Avs players on the ice before you jumped on the ice?
Well, nothing was really planned. The plan that I was told was I was going to go out and sit on the bench so I could go see it. And then, there was a lady with a headset on at the end of the bench that once everyone went out and skated out there for it, she yelled down to me like, "Hey, go on out there." And
nice.
I wasn't sure. I said, "Are you sure?" And she radioed up to somebody real quick, and then turned to me and was like, "Yeah, go."
Well, I knew he was on the bench, and you could see him sitting on the bench, and the fact that he came out there and was encouraged to do that. I don't remember a whole lot from opening night, but I remember that, and that's what you see in every video, every highlight, every still photo is a bunch of burgundy and blue, and then the one white sweater in Jack Johnson. For me, it's what made opening night.
I was also kind of self-conscious of photobombing all in the Blackhawks uniform and everything.
Right.
But I figured about the hecker, and this is such an unbelievable experience. And I got out there and kind of surprised the guys. I think I grabbed Helmer and Vance. And They turned around and they were laughing and surprised, and probably just as surprised as I was. So it was pretty cool and special. And I just tried to make sure I was standing in the back.
I noticed that 'cause I was watching it, and I noticed you peeked through, and I was, they
were going, Jack, get in the front. I was no shot.
There you have it. Again, thanks to Jack Johnson for being such a good sport about it. I like how dressed up he was.
I felt so. we were at practice, and I'm never dressed like to the nines or anything like that. I'm a more casual kind of guy, as people I'm sure know by now. And it was practice, and I was like, oh, these guys are gonna be running all over the place, right. And so we were down there, we were all set up, and as soon as I see him coming down the hall, I was like, and I look so bad. I immediately look so underdressed and unprofessional. So, I apologize to Jack Johnson for looking like such a.
Did you?
No, this is it right now. This is me apologizing to Jack Johnson for looking like such a bum when he was dressed so nice.
He took you seriously, and you're like, shoot.
I know.
A couple things. We haven't talked about Logan O'Connor, right? I think that was
fantastic.
a huge moment from the recent 4 games, and I feel bad for burying it here in the podcast because that was such a pivotal. I just think it said so much about the team. And
I even talked about the depth contributing, and I completely glossed over him twice, and I actually think he's been one of the team's best players.
2 shorthanded goals, you can't deny that.
Through 4 games.
But, man, when that fight happened, him, of course, getting Andrew Cogliano's back and making Jordan Eberle answer the bell, so many thoughts started spinning through my head. What was that like in the locker room before the game? Who brought that up? Was it Logan O'Connor saying, I'm going to take him out? Or was it just kind of whoever gets a chance, and Logan O'Connor says, nope, I got the chance, I'm taking it. It made me also think back to Nazem Kadri and the St. Louis Blues, how they kept making him answer the bell. I wonder how much, the Avalanche were like, well, this is kind of what we had to deal with a couple years ago. We're going to give it right back. We're going to wait a whole season. And that was the other thing. You knew they wanted to do that last year in the playoffs, but just couldn't. They wanted to focus on winning the playoffs. They failed. So they said, all right, next season, they had this date circled. That was just a couple of the handful of thoughts that kept running through my mind after that happened.
I don't necessarily know if I can't remember if he said that I don't think he talked about it before, like Logan O'Connor with Andrew Cogliano, but like he did. He said,
when Bedsy threw our line out, I figured their line would be going up. So I thought it was a good time just to get out of the way. I know it was maybe looming over some guys a little bit, looming over me a bit. And, he knew what he had to do, sort of thing, which I give him credit for. He knew the hit last year was probably cheap. Cost Cogs, the rest of that series, which wasn't much obviously, but then, the summer to recovering. So, yeah, it was good to get out of the way.
He has a little bit of a different relationship with Andrew Cogliano. That, they're partners, penalty killing. They play on that 4th line together. That it was eating him up a little bit, and that he felt like he needed to go out and take care of it. And, dude, again, there's just, Jared Bednar told us yesterday at practice, he said, players are smart. They look around at the guys we brought in. They understand what is happening here. And to me, that fight from Logan O'Connor was just like again, I don't want to sell last year's team short because they still won the Central Division. They had a very good season when it was all said and done record-wise. But, like, there just wasn't that same fire. It felt like to me, there wasn't that, like, palpable energy that you could feel the year before. And to me, Logan O'Connor going out and doing that was like, this team's fired up. He told us before games got going, the team was bitter because of the way that things had ended. They sat on that all summer. And so I do think that they're pissed off. They want to get back to where they think they should be. And that fight and kind of what you're seeing out of Logan O'Connor, I think, is embodying all of that.
Well, don't forget the game before in LA, also Logan O'Connor getting into a fight. So I feel like Logan O'Connor's really emerging as the guy on the team with the biggest bag of knuckles, gets the 2 shorthanded goals. I mean, I think he's been pivotal in exactly what you're saying, kind of relaying the message to the team itself, like, hey, we're not here to be pushed around this year. And that's exactly what I felt from that Kraken series in the playoffs last year. They were getting pushed around by a team that should not be pushing them around. Yeah. And I think that just one of the many messages that fight between Logan O'Connor and Eberle sends.
If you remember, it wasn't the 2022 year. Shit, was it? When Gabe Landeskog just like on the first or second shift of the game, like flattened Ryan O'Reilly behind the net, took the puck, moved it out front, and they scored. I don't remember what series that was with the Blues. I think it was 2022. But like that to me was one of those shifts where it's like, if you guys think that you're going to try to come in here and like check us out of the building, you're wrong. Like we are going to be on our toes. And I'm completely agree with you. Logan O'Connor doing that a minute and 20 seconds in, that was like, we didn't forget. We're still pissed off, and you guys poked the bear.
Well, and just such class from Jared Bednar, right? Because even last year during the playoffs, I saw a lot of Avs fans on Twitter saying, where's the retaliation? Somebody's got to go after him. And no, Jared Bednar, that's not his style. We're focused on winning. We'll push it down the line. We'll get there. Trust me, we'll get our revenge, but we're going to focus on the task at hand for right now and kick that can down the road. And I just think that just shows just how good of a coach Jared Bednar is. He doesn't let the emotional side of the game take over. He focuses on what he needs to do, and of course he's there for it. He likes the fighting, right?
And dude, he's dialed into all of like what you're talking about too. He is very, he stays, fans criticize him for it for some reason. He does stay very, very even. But like that's
calculated,
right? That's why the team has had the success that they've had. But again, like it's not because he's apathetic. He is very aware of what's going on out there, but he just knows I can't get sucked into the emotions of all this.
Right, and I feel like some people maybe think he shies away from the more physical side of the game, right? And I think you and I had a off-record conversation with him that's very much not the case. He's very, very much on board with that side of the game, and I
mean that's the type of player he was. Smart.
Yeah,
that's the type of player he was.
He knows probably from his time playing, there's a good time to do this and there's a bad time to do this, right? And he probably had to learn from experience. So, moving on, 2 more things to get to, Jesse. Who would you say through 4 games has been the MVP of this Colorado Avalanche team so far?
It's Alexander Georgiev.
Hands down.
Yeah, by a lot.
You didn't even hesitate. And that's the exact conversation I want to get into. Alexander Georgiev has been phenomenal.
It's been outstanding, dude.
Again, we kind of mentioned the competition hasn't been all there just yet, but he's been there just being solid and taking the workload as it is.
The first 3 weeks of the season are like it's chaos season. Like teams are still feeling out who they are, what they're going to become. Every team is still full of hope. So there is like Chicago won their first game of the season. For one night into the season, Chicago Blackhawk fans could talk themselves into like, yo, Connor Bedard is going to change everything. We just knocked off the Penguins in game 1. We're going for it. So you get all kinds of weird stuff these first couple weeks. And Georgiev has been like the ultimate neutralizer and all of that for the Avs. Like, yeah, kind of whatever craziness can happen, I'm settled in. I'm good.
Yeah. And I think there's really only one moment I haven't liked from him when he got beat over the shoulder in Seattle for that first goal of the game. Other than that, I mean, he's looked sharp. He's been ready. He's been like he spent the entire offseason preparing for this first month.
And what honestly, even the one in Seattle, which I agree with, that's not a great goal to give up, but even that one, I felt for him because he knew that he was off his angle, and he got beat because he was trying to readjust. He got caught kind of flat.
He slid out a little bit.
Yeah, and so that the reason there was such a big hole there was because he was trying to get corrected and get on that post and get it sealed. So I was like, damn, even on the one where I didn't like it, he knew what he did wrong immediately and that's what he was trying to correct when he got beat.
We know how much he loves the rhythm of the game, so we're not worried about what he's going to do the rest of the month. How do you think, I guess, this heavy workload at the beginning is going to affect him later on, if at all?
Here's the thing to keep in mind, though. Like, this hasn't been that heavy of a workload yet.
No, of course not. But if we go this whole month and he's played every single game.
But what I was going to say was you've got a lot of weird 2 days off. They're not playing every other night. And so I actually think if there is ever going to be a month where you should play him whenever you want to, it's probably this one.
There's only 10 days left in the month anyway. I mean, I'm sitting here acting like it's October 1st. It didn't even hit me that we're almost done with this month. Anyway.
Right. And we'll see here at morning skate. You and I are getting ready to go. I'm assuming he'll probably go tonight. My guess is Ivan Prosvetov gets one of the games here on the road. Jared Bednar talked to us about it yesterday that he's feeling more comfortable with Prosvetov. He's understanding the systems better. He's understanding the penalty kill better. And again, Jared Bednar did also mention it's been a little bit of a lighter schedule. That's part of the reason why I'm comfortable playing Georgiev. And he also says, I tell him, the minute you start feeling a little fatigued, tell me so that we can work that in. But if he's feeling good, Jared Bednar's fine to roll him out there. So I'm good with it. The one thing I do want to mention on goalies, Jared Bednar did tell us yesterday that it is a possibility that Pavel Francouz is done for the season. I found that interesting. Now he said, I haven't gotten any hard updates recently. We'll see. We're not closing the door, but I thought it was interesting the fact that he did acknowledge it was a possibility.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I find it somewhat deflating just because that was such a piece that you could lean on for so many years, not even years.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, because he's been in and out of the lineup.
He won you the Western Conference Final. He swept the Western Conference Final for you.
Yeah, and now you're kind of left with a question mark there where you knew what you had out of him. So, yeah, I think
he was a known quantity.
It's devastating.
Yeah,
I would say. I think Pavel Francouz is great too.
I do too. I've always thought he had number one upside, and it seems like the injuries are maybe gonna, derail the back half of his career here. But you hope not. You hope that he gets on the right track because not only is he a good goaltender, dude, he's a fucking fantastic guy.
Yeah,
outstanding individual.
Exactly, just a nice gem of a human. We rarely get people that are that friendly and that nice in the locker room, but I feel like we've had more this year than we've had in the last 10 years combined. Finally, Jesse, and this isn't going to have too much shelf-life, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Told you we'd get into them. You said they're a good team. They are a good team. Of course, they were the favorites coming into the season. I think they still are to win the Stanley Cup. But, man, they've had a brutal road trip. They lost to Anaheim. They were this close to losing to San Jose. They pulled it out in the end, and then they lost to Seattle. They're not exactly beating bad teams right now, which puts little fear in my heart for tonight, considering I think the Avalanche have been buzzing, have a lot of momentum right now. Carolina's still kind of just like the Avalanche working out kinks, but probably bigger, more impactful kinks.
You said
right
it puts little fear or it
puts little fear in my heart.
Okay, or I was going to say, I thought you were, or it puts a little fear in my heart that they're going to come out swinging.
It puts little fear in my heart. I mean, I'm all about recent form. How have you looked in your last 4 or 5 games? That's how I judge how you're going to play moving forward, right? You know me. I like to bet. Yeah. I'm always looking at teams and their current form and what I think they're going to do. So I don't, based off what they've done, especially Anaheim. Come on, bro. Anaheim, San Jose, and Seattle. Those are 3, bad teams. I know Seattle was a playoff team. They beat the Avalanche last year, but we talked about how they were riding a high shooting percentage. I don't think they're going to even make the playoffs this year. I'm not worried about Carolina. I'm just not.
I like their depth. I like their defense. Their goaltending gives you question marks. Now, the one area where they've just hit a brick wall in the playoffs, it seems like every year, and early on some of the struggles, they are a team that I don't worry about them, but I worry about where the goal scoring is going to come from. They don't have the high end elite talent. So I'm with you. If the Avs is this the last game of their trip, Carolina, or do they have one more after this?
I'm not sure.
But you're in the back half of a trip no matter what. You're on the 4th game of a road trip. early in the season. Yeah, if you can catch them a little tired, just kind of wanting to, hey, this hasn't been a good trip. Let's get home. Let's, get back to our own beds, get back to our own arena. The Avs head out on a 3-game trip, East Coast swing after tonight. Take care of business here at home. Yeah, kind of, make this. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Oh yeah, dude, 5-game trip, and they've got one more after this.
Where, Dallas?
Tampa. So they started at LA, at Anaheim, at San Jose, at Seattle, at Colorado, at Tampa Bay, then they go home. So like, dude, this is a tired group. They're getting back to their own time zone after this. Yeah, the Avs need to take care of business here for sure. I'm giving Carolina a little bit more respect maybe than you are, but if you're the Colorado Avalanche,
I mean, you look at years past, they always give the Avalanche a hard time, especially here at home. But again, current form, I think the Avalanche are head and shoulders above Carolina right now.
There you go. Let's go find out.
All right, Jesse. Well, we're up against the clock. We got to get to morning skate here in about 17 minutes. So. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Jesse, thanks for doing a podcast with me this morning.
Yeah. We will be on the road again. I'll be leaving Monday to get out to Long Island. Then we're going to Pittsburgh, going to Buffalo. So we'll have the coverage coming all week. I would like to try to figure out a way for us to do a podcast while I'm gone.
I can't wait to be on the road again. No, that'll be fun. I'm happy you're going to be there covering and representing that Guerilla Sports flag. So thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you're following, liking, commenting, subscribing, whatever you want to do. Interact with us. We're here for it. And, we'll see you next time, guys.